Hi, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be taking us through getting started with Microsoft Power BI in 2025. Now, I know a couple of us could have been using Power BI before, or some of us haven't used Power BI at all. And maybe you've been using it before and you open Power BI, you notice a lot of new things. Power BI doesn't look as it used to. This video is going to help you get back into Power BI, and if you're an absolute beginner, it's also going to help you start off with Power BI. Now, where do you first download Power BI? If you are using a Windows PC, you can get Power BI desktop on the Microsoft Store. There, you can just type the name Power BI desktop and you'll find it. Now, for Mac users, it's a bit tricky. There are a lot of videos out there on YouTube on how you can get this running on your system. May drop some in the description, so look forward to that as well. Now, without wasting much of our time, let's get right into the demo. So yes, this is the Power BI interface. Once you open a new Power BI report, Power BI desktop file, you will get this interface on my screen. You have the home, you have the open, you have the blank report, one lane catalog, Excel workbook, SQL server, learn with sample data, and get data from sources. Now, all of this will be explained as we go on further in this video. But for now, and you getting started, just click on the blank report. Now, once you click on the blank report, you get this interface on my screen. Now, for those who already have Power BI desktop on their laptop and you notice, oh, there may be a slight variation from what I have and what you can see from your end, don't worry, I'm going to show us how we can get this new nice looking view. I think I've gotten used to it already, and I want to help us also get used to this view as we proceed. Now you have the various tabs at the top. This is if you are coming from an Excel background, you will have this stuff we call like your ribbons, your home, your insert, modeling, view, optimize, and you have the help section on the screen. Now for the home tab, I'll just be explaining some of the buttons which you can see on the home tab. Some of them are really, as the name says, like they do what exactly what the name implies. Get data. Now, working with Power BI, the very first thing you need to do while working with Power BI is to load your data, like get your data from a particular source. The source of your data could be from a website, it could be from a database, it could be from a spreadsheet, it could be from a CSV file. You are now going to bring that data into your Power BI desktop to begin to work with it. So the very first section, most likely when you're starting with Power BI, you use the get data feature. Now this Excel workbook is still part of this get data. If you click on this get data drop down, you see Excel workbook, but they kept it here because they know a lot of people bring data from Excel. So it's to make it slightly faster for you to find. The same goes with one leg catalog. Now what one leg is, this is a kind of a new novel term used in Microsoft when the introduction of Microsoft Fabric became publicly available. Is one lake like serve as your house which hold all your various fabric assets. Fabric assets include your semantic models, your lakehouse, warehouse, KQL database, and SQL database. Maybe subsequent sessions we have videos on fabric as well, but this is more tailored towards Power BI. So some of this we may not need to know for now, but maybe as the course progress, I will explain some of this. Now, SQL Server, this is talking about the Microsoft SQL Server. You can bring data from Microsoft SQL Server. If you want to bring data from other SQL servers, maybe your MySQL database, you can click on this more button, and you'll be able to select various databases to bring once. So you can search for this particular database. You can see Oracle database, IBM database, and a couple of other database, Postgres, Cbase database. Power BI can connect to a whole load of connectors. The connectors keeps on increasing and increasing and increasing as Power BI keeps on progressing. So it's just to enable people to be able to easily bring their data into Power BI. What they've done is they've found a way to nicely arrange things based on their category. If you want to get data from a file, you have this file option. A database, you have databases listed here. Microsoft Fabric, what Microsoft Fabric is an end-to-end analytics platform, and Power BI is also a subset of Microsoft Fabric. It's also a part of Microsoft Fabric. This so you can also get data from Power Platform. It helps you to build business applications and automate business processes as well. Maybe in other videos as well, we'll talk about this too more extensively as well. Now, Azure is Microsoft Cloud Service, so you can get data from a lot of Azure databases, tables, blob storage, and lakehouse and lakes from Azure as well. And you can also bring data in from all online services. That's your website, your SharePoint, your Google Analytics, different online services that are possible. Now you can use this other feature to bring, like I said, web Python script, out script from Spark, and you can even sort of create your own custom connector, or you can go ahead to bring data from a blank query. So these are like the various sources which you can bring data, and you can find all this under the get data. So this section here at the top of my screen talks about like the various places where you can bring data into Power BI. So all of this speaks about that. Enter data. Now, what this enter data feature does is if you want to type, so people coming from traditional Excel background, I know you start off by maybe typing your data in your spreadsheets and working with your data like that. In Power BI, the data is not sitting in the spreadsheet. But if you want to type data and bring that data in directly in Power BI without going to another interface, you can use this enter data feature. You can also bring data from Dataverse, which is the Power Platform, the model-driven app, Dynamics 365, and the rest can bring data from this. You can see the most recent sources where you brought data from this section. Now, for people that are just coming, people that have been using Power BI for a while, I'm sure this new visual section will be a bit strange for you. You may not have it from your end, maybe showing at the top, or it may have been updated depending on when you are watching this video and you see this various visual. What this does is that you can start to select the various visuals you want to analyze your data without coming to the build section of your data from this very top end aspect. Now you can bring in text box, you can add in more visuals, and there are various sections on the home page which are kind of graded out now because there are no data inside this Power BI. Like the new visual calculation, new measures, quick measures, sensitivity, publish, prep data, and copilot. Copilot is not graded out, but it's important to know that some of these copilot capabilities required a copilot, copilot being available for your entire organization. So it needs probably admin privilege to be able to do that. And some may require a bit of copilot license as at this point of recording this video. So that's for the home tab. Now insert tab. When we are talking about insert, we have various things we can bring inside the insert. You have new page. Now page, this section which we are in on is a page. You can add more page dependent on the stories that you want to tell. If you are coming from an Excel background, the reason why I like mentioning Excel background a bit, because we have like probably three sort of tradition of Power BI users. People that probably use Excel or spreadsheet before, people who haven't used any of those two before, um, are people that are coming from maybe a software background to use Power BI. Now, Excel is it's a whole old tool and very very traditional tool, which but still can do a lot of amazing things. And Power BI was kind of birthed from a lot of combination of a lot of tools from Excel directly, which made this amazing tool which we know as Power BI, which focuses on business intelligence as well. So you can add new page just like how you add sheets in Excel by clicking on this page, this plus button. So it allows you to add pages, and the pages allows you to tell more stories based on your data as well. Now you can do that under this insert and click on new page. You can bring in more visuals. You can use key influencer visuals. All these are AI visuals. As we progress, we may talk about them a bit more. Now you have option of bringing in paginated reports. These are like kind of PDF and pixel perfect reports for your business. So that's what paginated reports are kind of all about. We won't be doing it now, obviously, but the option is there. You can bring in data from Power Apps and Power Automate. Power Apps is used for building business application. Power Automate for low code automation. Now you can bring in your text box. Text box. If you want to write a title, you can use this. If you want to add buttons to your visual, you can do this. If you want to add shapes, you can do this. And if you want to add image, now, modeling this, a lot of these tabs will be graded out because we've not loaded data in, but you can come here, manage your relationship, add calculations to your model, and change or add languages to your data model as well. Then you have views, you have various views in Power BI. You can, from here, you can set the theme. The theme talks about the general like look and feel of the Power BI report. You can import custom themes beyond the ones that are highlighted here. Okay, if I click on this drop down, I can see various themes. I can go ahead to use them. I like the default one by the way, but you can customize your own theme and you can create themes and import it there as well. Now you have layouts. From this top button under the view, you can see the different layout. But below my screen here, where you have the desktop view, you also have the mobile view. So if I want to build a mobile friendly report, I can just click on this mobile layout view, and this will switch my Power BI report to look like a phone view. This is nice for people that want to build report that will be consumed by people that use mobile devices or phone. So that is for the mobile layout view. And the other, you have optimize, you have help. Now this help section is very very useful. If you want to start learning more about Power BI, I recommend you spending some time here under the help. You can see guided learning, training videos, documentation, support, Power BI blog, community, Power BI for developers, submit an idea, external tools, example, and consulting service. So you can spend some time joining the community. You can ask questions in the community. You can share knowledge in the communities, and you can gain insight from the communities as well. So if you come to this about, now this is very 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 useful. Under the about, it to tell you the version of Power BI you are using. If you downloaded your Power BI from Microsoft Store, it will most likely be using the latest version of Power BI, because Power BI is supposed to automatically update based on just like your regular application do that you get from Microsoft Store. So it should regularly update. But if it's not up to date, I recommend you go back to the Microsoft Store to try to update that as well. So that's on this for the top tabs of your Power BI. Now, before I go into this other section of Power BI, I just want to quickly show us how we can get our Power BI to probably look the same way as mine do. Now, if you come to the file tab of Power BI, if you want to save your report, your Power BI file, you can click on this save as, and this in this section you can browse to the particular location you want to save your report. and you can go ahead to click on to give it a name and click on save to save the report at the end of the day. And this largely depends on, yeah, so you go ahead to click on it and click on save at the end of the day. So it will show you the location where you want to save the file. You can just give it a name to confirm you are good with it. Then you can go ahead to save the file that you want. Now it's important to note there are three different core file types in Power BI. By default, your Power BI will be saved as a PBIX, which is a Power BI file. You can save your Power BI as a PBIT, which is a Power BI template file, and you can save it as a PBIP, which is a Power BI project file. Now, I encourage you to read largely more on these two files, but template files can enable you to create dynamic reusable templates, which you can pass in parameters and do a lot more with it. The same with project files can also help you with easy version control and easy things you want to do with with your Power BI. I encourage you to read up on it. Maybe in another video may explain this concept a lot more. But this is it. Now, as a beginner or starting out with Power BI, your Power BI most likely will be saved as a PBIX. So you just give it a name and drop it in the location where you want to save it. Now, the other buttons here, share. Now, to share your report, the best way to share your report isn't through this route. This route is to share it with probably another developer. If you want to share your report with a target audience, you first publish your report to the web, publish it to Power BI service. Then that way you can share it with whoever the consumer that is going to download or use the report. So that way you can also manage what is done in development not being shared to production as well. Now I'm going to come to options and setting, which is one key part which I want us to do. Click on options. Under options, I'm going to scroll down and I'll see under options, I'm going to scroll and I'm going to see various options that I can control in my Power BI. Various options, settings which I can change in my Power BI. Important to note this, it's each showing depends on also the applications you have running on your computer and also the RAM of your computer. It takes a bit of while but not too long for it to show. So if it's code, now there are various loads of options and settings. You have the data load, Power Query Editor. Now for most of this, starting out the default setting is best. But if for most of this, starting out the default setting is best. But what I want to bring you to is preview features. Now, Power BI, how Power BI release updates and update most of their features, they release them as previews. That's instead of releasing all their features all at once, they release them in they release them to the public to allow them to enable them, share feedback based on the features, and based on that feedback, they can take those features and decide to make it a common feature in Power BI. Now, why am I saying you should come here? Under this preview feature, there's a feature which is very, very useful called on object interaction. If I scroll down here under the preview features, I'll be able to see on object interaction. You can turn it on. In addition to this feature, I highly recommend you turn on list slicer, button slicer, new card visual, text slicer, write dark queries with Copilot, summary with Copilot. Now you can turn on every single one of these. It's still it's still good, but I only advise you to turn on what you know may sound useful. And if you don't know what they do, you can click on learn more. It gives you links to publication on them and explanation on what they do. Now, the ones I largely recommend you turn on object interaction, metrics visual, save to OneDrive and SharePoint, new card visual, button slicer, list slicer, text slicer, write darks with Copilot, summary with Copilot Visual, measure description with Copilot. So you can turn on all of this, then you can click on OK. Now, the moment you turn something on and click on OK, Power BI would recommend that you close your laptop, you restart your laptop, and I recommend you to do it. The moment you restart your laptop, you should see the new screen. Now, before you go ahead to restart it, after this preview feature, you can come to save and recovery. The default recovery will be showing you 10 minutes. Now, it depends on you. If you can afford to lose 10 minutes worth of work, it's fine, but it's always good to reduce it to the number of minutes which you feel you can you can be able to quickly recover what you're doing. Mine, I set mine at 3 minutes, but it's important to know the more the minutes, the more this auto recovery storage use. So I set mine at 3 minutes because I don't want to lose less than 3 minutes. I think the lowest is 1 minute. So you can change this auto recovery so that anytime your Power BI close for some unknown reason, you'll be able to quickly recover the file. Now, once you're done with thought enabling all the preview features, you can click on this you can click on the OK button, not the cancel button, and that will prompt you to close your Power BI desktop and restart it. The moment you've restarted your Power BI desktop, now let's take a look at the other sections of Power BI. So once you must have restarted your Power BI should start to look more like mine on my screen. And I'm going to explain the other sections which we need to know about Power BI. So you have, after the ribbons at the top, you have various views in Power BI. You have your report view. This is where you build out your various visualization, your story, your various visualization in Power BI. You build it in somewhere called a canvas. Canvas is this white empty space on my screen. Now you have table view. When you load data into Power BI, your your data, you'll be able to see the data you've loaded that is stored via import mode. This will be explained as we proceed again under this table view. Model view, this is where you go ahead to create your relationship and your relationship in your tables together. This is where you do its model view. Then you have dark query view. This is where you write your various calculation and measures in Power BI. Now you can write your measures outside this dark query view, but this dark query view is a newly introduced one that allows you to write a lot of measures at once without having to write them one by one, which is some of the advantage of that query view. It also allows you to evaluate your measures and redefine your calculation logic a bit. Now TMDL view is a little bit new and new as well. Now this is TMDL, you can read up a lot more on it, but if you are used to scripting and programming your models, you'll find TMDL a lot very, very useful. And it's also useful for people who have tabular editor experience and who knows how to write TMDL scripts. The scripts are a bit easy to learn, but I expect you to take your time going through the documentation to learn them. So that's the various views which you have by this left section. Now, on the canvas, on the canvas, you have various tabs there. You have the import data from Excel. These are just showing you various places you can bring data from. And you have this use sample data. For this our quick demo, we're going to click on this use sample data which we have in Excel. So I'm going to click on use sample data. So after clicking on use sample data, what Power BI will do is there are already there are already data stored in Power BI which we can bring in to learn and practice. Now I'm just going to click on load sample data. Now that will take a little bit of while to load. Now the moment that has loaded, so we can see the sample data. So it's the financial sample data. I'm going to check this. Now this is showing the Power Query editor. The Power Query, when you click on get data, and we're just trying to get data from sample from from the financial sample data in Power BI. Now I have three options below here. I have load, I have transform, I have cancel. Now, by default, if you click on load, this will load the data directly into Power Query. And because we know it is Power BI sample data, we can go ahead to do it. But I always recommend when you are bringing data from a particular source into Power BI, always click on this transform data. And I'm going to click on this transform data to introduce us to the Power Query editor interface. So after we clicked on sample on financial samples and we clicked on transform data, we have the Power Query editor open right here for us. Now I'm just going to explain some of the tabs in Power Query editor, and we're going to do a hands-on demo cleaning a file in Power Query. But this file is technically clean. If you check, the valid percentage of valid values we have is 100% throughout. So we don't really need to do some cleaning on this, but I'm going to explain the whole interface. Now, at the top tab of the interface, you have the news source. This is where you can get data from news sources. You have recent sources, which, like I explained in the previous video. If you haven't watched that, go ahead to watch that. So you have the enter data, where you can enter data directly. Data source settings. Now, if you are bringing a data from maybe an online location or maybe a database, it will require you to specify certain parameters. And for you to be able to easily change that source, you come to data source settings to change the data source. The same way when you are getting data from any location. If I click on this data source setting, all it will show me is the source of where that data is coming from, and I can edit this data either manually or I can create parameters to help me edit this dynamically in Power Query, depending on the use case scenario I want to do. I want to use. I know. So that's what data source setting does. So we also okay. So this is it. It's just telling me the file path of where particular file is. So I can change this part. If I move the file to another location, I will say edit this as well. I can click on close. So that's for the data source setting. Now you have also manage parameters, you have refresh preview, you have pop refresh preview. What this allows you to do is refresh your data in Power BI. So rather than you having to always, when you bring data from a particular source, the data has to be up to date, especially if it's not a live connection. So this refresh preview will allow you to refresh the data to make sure it's up to date. You also have properties where you can see the modify the name of the query and the description of the query, what the name is doing. If I click on this, I'll be able to modify some of those properties of the query. Now you also have advanced editor. So this is the name of the query. I can give it a description. I can enable load to report. I can include in report refresh. I don't need to change any of this. So advanced editor. Power Query is a low code ETL tool, but basically for every single transformation you make, there's a code written at the back end of it, and the language in which the code uses is the M language. And for you to see that, I can click on the advanced editor, and what this will show me is every single task which we did, which was we selected the source of the file. It writes the code for me without me having to write the code. At certain points when you grow in your career, you'll be able to manipulate some of this code. The M language is a little bit relatively easy or simple to understand and learn. There are various videos out there. May probably release a video on learning the M language. So, but the M language, you can come here to modify it when you've gotten a lot accustomed to how Power Query works. But you can do most of the things you need to do using the UI. So with the UI, you can go ahead to do whatever transformation you want to do. Now choose columns. This is a transformation step. Instead of what this choose column can do, it can help you select all the columns you need in your data set. So you can choose maybe I don't want to see all the data to be loaded. I can select just a few columns. Maybe I want all the data to be collected. I can select all as well. That's what this choose columns does. And a lot of other buttons on this home tab, the name does justice to what it does. Like remove columns also removes all the columns that remove particular columns that you want to remove. Keep rows, keep the rows that you want to keep. Remove rows, remove all the rows that you don't want to keep. Now, what this split column does is it allows you to separate a column based on a delimiter. A typical example is if you have like full name, you can split the full name into like first name and last name and various examples like that. That's what this keep split column does. You have group by, allows you to aggregate your data rather than loading all your data at once. You can group by specific fields to help reduce the size of data which is coming in. So a typical example is rather than if you don't want to see the data by day level, but you want to compare it, like maybe you want to see the monthly, you want to create a report of the monthly expense and you don't need the day by day granularity, you can go by the aggregations to do that as well. So it also helps in improving maybe the speed or the load time of certain queries when you have large data. Now you can use the first row as header, you can merge queries, append queries. All of this will be talked a lot more extensively when we get into a demo, a proper demo, but just showing you the various interface of what you need to know. The transform tab also talks about various tools you can do, group by which we saw on the home tab. Some of the things which you find on the transform and add columns are put on the home tab for ease of access. So some of them still perform the same function as well. You have transpose. What transpose does is it helps you to treat rows as column and columns as rows. So it's kind of like flipping your data to be able to see your rows as columns and your columns as rows. Count rows allows you to return the number of rows in the table. Reverse rows invert this table's rows so that the last rows are displayed first. So if you want a situation that the last data you have, you want it to be the first data you see, you can use this inverse rows. Now, data type, you can change the data type, and this data type is very important. What this means is if you have a currency field, we are talking about a field like revenue that is talking about money. If you have it as text, you won't be able to perform any aggregation based on your data. So you have to ensure that your data type is always correct to be able to work with your data. Now, Power Query has a change type step which tries to automatically detect your data type, but it's always good to change it by if you want. You have replace value. This allows you to replace a value based on whatever you want. For example, if I want to replace Canada with CN, I can use this replace value. It works like find and replace. So if I click on replace values, I can specify what values I want to replace. Now, replace errors allows you to replace errors. Fill, it allows you to fill a value up or down. So what this means is when you have nulls, and we have a typical example to display how to use fill. When you have nulls, you can fill your values up or down, dependent on your use case. You have split column to split your columns, which I explained. You have format. This allows you to format your text fields. Do you want to convert all your text to lowercase, uppercase, capitalize each word, which is proper case, trim your text, clean your text, add preface or add suffix to your text? You can do that. If you want to extract probably a particular word from a text, you can use this extract button, and you have a whole lot of other fields which you can use from your data. And you have a whole lot of other fields which you can use from your data. You have date, you have time, you have run scripts and run Python script as well. Now you have the add columns. Add columns allows you to add columns to your data which are not already there. So you can add columns from example, you can add custom column, and you can invoke custom functions in your data. Now this will be explained more, just explaining the interface for now and what some of the things you can do so they don't seem too foreign. You can add conditional columns. So if something happens, what should happen? Can add index columns which serves as like numbers based on your data. You can duplicate columns as well. Now you can format what add columns also have some buttons in transform. But what add columns will do, instead of removing the column altogether, it will add the column as a new column in your data. It will add the columns as new columns in your data. Now we have dates. This to add like there are various date fields you can add. Maybe you want to add year, month, start of the year, end of the year. You can use this to go ahead to even build a date table. The same goes with time, what time it's occurred. Maybe you want to add hour, minute, second. Now, a lot of these are graded out because I'm not on a date field, but if you're on a proper date field, you can go ahead to add those. Now, you have some other things you can add, which are AI insights. You have text analytics. So, if you want to do stuff like sentiment, analytics, and some other various text analytics you want to do, these tabs could help you, but some of them may need you to connect to various other services as well. Now, for the view tab, this is where you can see your column quality, which is what's checked here. So this is showing us the percentage of valid value we have, error value we have, empty value we have. Now, if I want to see the column distribution as well, I can just check the column distribution. It will show me the number of distinct and unique values which I have in my data set. I have in my data set as well. Now, if I deselect column profile, what column profile is supposed to show me is supposed to show me the it's supposed to show me the column statistics, which is like the minimum, the maximum value we have there. This is a text field, so it recognize the minimum as the minimum later and the maximum as the maximum later that we have there. But if you are in a value field, it recognizes it as the minimum and maximum value which we have. So, and you have the advanced editor which I showed before. It allows you to see what is going on in your the codes that are in your data as well. Now, query dependency, this allows you to see like a lineage view of your query. What query is dependent on another query. So when you have multiple queries referencing one another, this view is very, very useful. So you don't go ahead to start deleting things and wondering, oh, why isn't the report working again? Now you have tools and you have, and I'll go back to the home. Cl- Once you're done with cleaning your data, which technically we didn't clean our data, I said data was clean, wanted to show us the Power Query interface. Another key thing to note is that all the queries, every single data you loaded will be considered like queries and they will show under this queries tab. Now, every single transformation step you make in Power Query will be recorded under these applied steps. There's no redo, but you can cancel a step, but you cannot redo the step basically in Power Query. So you have to be sure of what you want to do, and you have to be sure when you want to delete a step or when you want to add a step. So you don't go ahead to start counseling. Then this is where you give the name of the query, which we are seeing the name as financials, which it works right now, so we're not going to change it. And for this, after that tour of Power Query, I can click on close and apply. So the moment I'm done, I can click on apply changes. But if I click on close and apply, normally to do that for us, I will see the number of changes that it's going to apply. The query is going to load for a while. Then we have the data loaded into our Power Query. So it's showing it's loading that data, the financials data, and Now, after you've loaded your data into Power BI, now you can go ahead to build your first report. Now, your data that you've loaded, you'll be able to see it under this data tab. And creating reports in Power BI is so easy. So, for example, I want to see the product and the sales that they made. I can click on this product tab, and once I click on this product tab, check mark, I can also click on sales. Typically, you when you want to do your reports, you're normally comparing between quantity versus category. What I mean by that is you have a quant you have a categorical field which tells you more information about the particular quantitative fields. So if I say revenue of 10 million or so, now you may ask me the question of which revenue, what revenue am I talking about? And that's where your categorical field come in. So when you do calculation or create your report, you are typically creating your report comparing a categorical field, which is probably your product versus the revenue which you have there. And that should show up, yeah, any moment. Now this should show you the report which was created. The screen is a bit tiny. I'm gonna zoom in for you people to see clearly. Now, so this showing you the revenue related category. Now, Power BI is smart enough to choose what it believes to be the best visual to tell the story. Now, you can go ahead under this suggest a visual. You can go ahead to click on this and pick any other type of report you want to see. Maybe I want to see it as a table. I can click on table, and it will show me this value as a single table. As a single table of values. If I want to see it as a cluster chart, I will use it as a cluster chart or area chart and all. But it's important to know that each chart tells different story and different meaning. Now, we're not going to go into visualization yet, but I just wanted to show you how easy it is to create reports and stories. When you go into visualization, we'll be explaining a lot more on what each of these chat does and which of this data does. Now, if you want to create another report, probably I've created this. All you just need to do is click outside the report you've created on the blank canvas. Make sure you're not selecting the report you created. And I can select another field. Maybe I want to see segment and profits. Just select segment and I can select the profit for that particular segment. And it will show me this as another report in my Power BI. Very nice, easy, and simple to do. Now, if you want to format the report, you can come under this format tab. There are a lot of things you can go ahead to format. Now, I said this video isn't about visualization. I've showed you some of the formatting techniques you can do, but in subsequent videos, going to highlight that. But that's what you basically need. Now, one other thing which I'm going to state before we move on to another thing is this canvas settings. Now, by default, if you want to change probably the color of how your Power BI desktop look, you can come to canvas settings, and I can change. Maybe if I want to change the type, by default it uses 16 by 9. That's talking about the width and the height of the page. I can come if I want to see it as a later. I can select later 4 by 3 2 tip page. When we get into visualization, it may become a lot more clever. Or if you want to use a custom selector, you can use it at the end of the day. Now, if I want to change the color of the canvas, I can click on this canvas background and I can select a color here. Maybe I want to have everything show as, I don't know, for some reason, maybe this type of black. And once I've selected the color, I can adjust the transparency. So maybe I want it to be like this. So that changes the color of the canvas as well. Now, dependent on how much you increase or reduce the transparency, that shows you like the sharpness on which the color will be expressed. So I can close this canvas setting canvas background. It's important to note you can also bring in an image to be the background of your canvas so that the image can be like your company's logo, your company's maybe your company has a front page, a cover page. You can bring it in to be the background of your canvas. The same goes for wallpaper. So you can bring in a wallpaper into your Power BI as well. Now, so that is like what you need to quickly get started in Power BI. In the next video, we're going to be using a actual cleaning case scenario for data preparation with Power Query. So see you in the next video.